My family invited me to a fancy restaurant for my baby shower. But when I arrived, the table was empty, except for a single letter. Your sister lost her baby, and you think you deserve to be happy? We're cutting ties. Pay back every dollar we spent raising you. A week later, they got a bill from me. My family threw me a baby shower at a fancy restaurant. But when I got there, the table was bare except for a single letter. It read, "Your sister lost her baby, and you think you deserve to be happy? We're done with you. Pay back every penny we ever spent raising you." A week later, they got a bill from me. Mary Hamilton took a deep breath, the aroma of herbal tea filling her Chicago apartment kitchen as morning sunlight streamed in. She felt a familiar tightness in her abdomen and gently rested a hand on her 5-month pregnant belly. This was supposed to be one of the happiest times of her life. "How are you two doing?" David, her husband, wrapped his arms around her from behind, kissing her shoulder. "A little tired but happy," Mary smiled. "I'm going to check out the baby shower venue today. Mom said she found the perfect spot." A flicker of tension crossed David's face. "I'm surprised your parents are organizing it." "Yeah, I was surprised too," Mary admitted. After her sister Caitlin's miscarriage, her parents had been devastated. Mary gazed at the Chicago skyline, her family always bringing up mixed feelings. She'd always been the strong one, while Caitlin, delicate since childhood, got all the attention. Even after college, Mary stayed home, caring for her sister and working to support everyone. She'd given up career moves and chances to study overseas for them. "Mary's tough, she'll manage," her parents would say, overlooking her sacrifices. 3 years ago, as her real estate career finally started to bloom, Mary met and fell in love with David, a colleague. They married last year. It was the first time she'd put her own happiness first, and now their first child was on the way. On the surface, her family celebrated. But her mother, Elizabeth, had quietly said, "Caitlin should have had a baby before you." Caitlin had married Jason, a doctor, 2 years prior and wanted to get pregnant immediately but struggled. Then, almost miraculously, after Mary announced her pregnancy, Caitlin conceived too. Their parents were thrilled, focusing more on Caitlin's pregnancy than Mary's. Mary genuinely wished her sister happiness, downplaying her own joy to be supportive. However, when Mary was 6 months along, Caitlin suddenly miscarried. The entire family was heartbroken, especially her parents, who became consumed with Caitlin's grief. When Mary tried to bring up her baby shower around then, her mother coldly shut her down. "This isn't the time for that." Yet, a week later, her parents called saying, "We've planned a baby shower for you." Mary was surprised and thankful, but something felt off. "Families are complicated, David," Mary said, squeezing his hand. "Yours especially," he replied bluntly. "They aren't fair to you. They don't seem to get how much you've done for them." "That's just their way of showing love," Mary excused them as usual. David said nothing, but concern filled his eyes. He worried about Mary constantly sacrificing herself, but he respected her strength and patience. "So what's the plan for today?" David changed the subject. "Mom called. She booked Blue Sky, the most renowned restaurant in Chicago. I'm meeting her to go over the baby shower details." "That's great," David smiled. "Looks like your family is finally recognizing your happiness." Mary smiled back, but a knot of unease tightened in her stomach. Their sudden change of heart felt strange, but today was the planning meeting she'd looked forward to. After years of meeting their expectations, Mary wanted to believe she'd finally get their blessing. Mary parked in front of Blue Sky, a high-end restaurant in Chicago's River North. The city buzzed on the weekend afternoon, but she felt unsettled. Still, she put on a smile, got out of her car and took a deep breath. Her light blue maternity dress matched her eyes, which sparkled in the spring sun. "What a beautiful restaurant," Mary murmured. She had mixed feelings about her parents picking such an expensive place. Having always been second best, this sudden generosity was hard to process. Inside, elegant decorations and a refined ambience greeted her. Chandeliers glittered, and tables with crisp white tablecloths were perfectly arranged. "Reservation for Hamilton?" the hostess asked warmly. "Yes," Mary replied. "For a baby shower." "Of course, we've been expecting you," the hostess smiled. "We have a private dining room ready. This way, please." Mary followed her down a quiet hall, away from the main dining area. Feeling her baby kick, she was filled with gratitude. After years of serving her family, this was her day. Here we are. The hostess stopped at a decorated door, smiling at Mary. Congratulations. Thank you, Mary said sincerely. Once the hostess left, Mary took another deep breath. Her parents, sister, and friends should be waiting on the other side. Heart full of joy and anticipation, she reached for the door, expecting to hear "Congratulations, Mary." When she opened it, her smile froze. The room was empty. Just one table with a white cloth and a small envelope on it. No decorations, no welcoming words, only silence. What is this? Mary walked in confused. Was she late? She checked her phone right on time. With trembling hands, she picked up the envelope. Her name was in her father's handwriting. Anxiety tightened her chest. Opening it, she found a note and several sheets of paper. Mary unfolded the note. To Mary, now that Caitlin has lost her baby, you don't deserve to be happy alone. We've decided to cut ties. We expect you to repay all the money we spent raising and educating you. A detailed invoice is enclosed. This is our final word. Robert and Elizabeth. Color drained from Mary's face. Her vision blurred. She felt faint and sank into a nearby chair. Shaking, she pulled out the invoice. It was itemized. Education costs from kindergarten through college, food for 18 years, medical bills, and more, all adding up. Is this a joke? Mary stared at the paper, a sharp pain in her chest making it hard to breathe. Her baby moved, a small reminder that brought her back. Suddenly, the door opened, and a concerned waiter peeked in. Ma'am, are you all right? Are your other guests still coming? Mary stood, trying to hide her distress. No, it seems they won't be. Please cancel the reservation. Certainly. Would you like to order anything? No, thank you. After he left, Mary sat again, staring at the letter and invoice, tears streaming down her face unnoticed. Never had she felt so betrayed, so abandoned. Why? She whispered, her voice trembling. Why would they do this? Mary had always dedicated herself to her family. Even after college, she sacrificed her career to stay home, looking after her sick sister while working to support them. She'd given up her dream of studying abroad, always putting their happiness first. And now, just when she'd finally found her own, this is how they treated her. Mary finally found the strength to stand. She carefully put the invoice and letter in her purse and staggered out. Across the parking lot, she spotted a familiar car. Her parents. Standing beside it were her parents and sister. They'd been watching her. Mary stopped. When they saw her, they got into their car without a word and drove off. At the last second, Caitlin looked back, their eyes meeting. Sadness and regret were in Caitlin's gaze, but she too said nothing and got in the car. Tears blurring her vision, Mary returned to her car. She rested her forehead on the steering wheel and sobbed. Her baby moved again, and she instinctively placed her hand there. It's okay, baby, she whispered. You have mommy and daddy. That's enough. Before starting the engine, Mary took a deep breath to calm herself. She thought about calling David but wasn't ready to unpack her feelings. Instead, she drove straight home. Anger and sadness swirled in Mary's heart, but beneath it, determination began to grow. She had endured enough, sacrificed enough. It's time to end this, she said softly. Thinking about the invoice, memories flooded back. How she'd secretly bailed them out when her father's investments failed. How she'd nursed her mother back to health without pay. How she'd covered Caitlin's expensive medical treatments. Her dreams, her time, all sacrificed. An invoice. Mary couldn't help but smile. A sad smile, but with hidden strength. If they were sending her an invoice, maybe it was time she sent them one too. By the time she reached her apartment, a new resolve had bloomed. No more tears. Strength shone in her eyes. Hurt, yes, but she was determined to stand up for herself and her baby. Mary, what happened? David knew something was wrong the moment he saw her face. Mary quietly closed the door and walked into the living room. Her expression was hard, her eyes red and swollen, but a new light of determination was there. It wasn't a baby shower. Mary pulled the envelope from her purse with trembling hands. This was my family's gift. David took it, confused, and read the contents. As he read, his face turned red with anger. Unbelievable. They're insane. David was furious. How could parents do this to their own child? Mary sat on the sofa, covering her face. The emotion she'd suppressed for so long burst out. I've always been there for them, she cried. Even after college, I sacrificed my career. I gave up studying abroad to pay for Caitlin's medical bills, and yet, David sat beside her, holding her. He'd seen Mary sacrifice for her family for years, but this betrayal was beyond anything. You don't owe them anything, David said firmly. If anything, they owe you. Those words sparked something in Mary. She looked up. Yes. She slowly stood and went to the study. David, can you help me? From a closet, Mary pulled out a large cardboard box labeled family papers. She set it on the floor and opened it. What's this? David asked. Evidence of my dealings with my family for the past 10 years, Mary answered quietly, pulling out documents. Right after I graduated, Dad's investments failed and he had massive debt. I gave them most of my starting salary so they wouldn't lose the house. She continued pulling out bank transfer records, payment slips, handwritten notes, all organized. Caitlin's expensive treatments, my parents' mortgage, Dad's business debt restructuring. I secretly paid for it all. David looked at the documents, stunned. You paid for all of this? Mary nodded. Dad was a proud man. He didn't want his financial failures known. So I supported them discreetly, letting them believe Dad was handling everything. David tried to process it, looking through the papers. So your family thought they were financially stable, but you were secretly propping them up? Yes, Mary said, organizing the mountain of documents. Dad made me promise to keep it secret from Mom and Caitlin for his pride. He said it was for the family's honor. Good grief, David held his head. And they sent you an invoice? Ironic, isn't it? Mary gave a bitter smile. In reality, I've paid them far more. She pulled out another file and handed it to David. It contained a detailed record of expenditures over the past decade. The total was staggering. Why such detailed records? David asked. Mary gazed out the window. At first, it was just for household budgeting. But over time, I started to feel something wasn't right. Dad would take my help but ignore my contributions. Mom always put Caitlin first and disregarded my feelings. And Caitlin. She trailed off. Didn't Caitlin know? David asked. No, none of them knew. Dad made me promise. Mary sighed. Thinking about it now, it wasn't for the family's honor, but to protect his pride. David and Mary talked all night. Emotions ran high, tears, anger. But by morning, a new determination shone in Mary's eyes. I need to show them the truth, she said, her face resolute. I won't support them secretly anymore. I won't let them deny my value. David squeezed her hand. What are you going to do? First, I'll contact a lawyer, Mary answered calmly. I'll have them legally document all the financial support I've given over the past 10 years. At the same time, I'll work with an accountant to create a detailed record of my expenses for them. I'm going to create an invoice listing everything. Dad's debt repayment, Caitlin's medical bills, my parents' mortgage payments. Are you looking for revenge? David asked, worried. Mary shook her head. This isn't revenge. It's about revealing the truth, showing them how unfair they've been. And most importantly, freeing myself from years of silence. From that day, Mary took action. She found a reliable lawyer and accountant and began organizing detailed records. Every day after work, she spent hours in her study, reviewing past records. A week later, everything was ready. Her lawyer had prepared legal documents, and her accountant had completed an invoice detailing her 10 years of expenditures. The total is astonishing, Mary murmured, staring at the invoice. This is what I've paid for my family. David placed his hand on her shoulder. Are you really going to send this? Mary looked out the window. I am, but not to demand money. I want them to know the truth. She attached a letter. Dad, Mom, Caitlin, I received your invoice. Here is mine. This is a record of the financial support I've provided over the past 10 years. It includes Dad's debt repayment after his investment failure, Caitlin's medical expenses, mortgage payments, and more. However, this invoice isn't a demand for repayment. I just want you to know the truth. Now that you've decided to abandon me, I will no longer support you secretly. I will live my life and my child's life. Because I love you, I'm telling you the truth. Mary. Mary slowly sealed the envelope. Her hands trembled, but her heart was strong. I'll send this tomorrow, she told David. And then I'll start a new life. That night, Mary slept peacefully for the first time in a long while, her baby moving energetically, as if blessing her mother's new resolve. It's okay, baby, Mary whispered. We'll be strong and live surrounded by people who understand what family truly means. It was a rainy Wednesday morning when the mail carrier arrived at the Hamilton family's home. Robert opened the door and took the envelope. His expression darkened when he saw the sender's name. Who's it from? Elizabeth called from the kitchen. It's from Mary, Robert answered reluctantly, bringing it to the living room. Elizabeth and Caitlin gathered around, curious. They hadn't heard from Mary since the baby shower incident a week ago. They'd expected anger or pleas, not such a quick reply. Open it, Elizabeth urged. Robert slowly opened the envelope. A thick bundle of documents emerged, a handwritten letter on top. The room fell silent as he read it aloud, his voice trembling by the last words. He then turned to the documents, a detailed invoice. Page after page, his face grew paler. What is this? Elizabeth, confused, took the documents. She too was shocked by the contents. Is this true? Mary gave us this much money. Caitlin peered at the papers. My medical expenses, she said, her voice shaking. Mary paid for them, not Dad? Robert covered his face. After a long silence, he finally spoke. It's true, he admitted quietly. I failed in my investments. We were about to lose everything. Mary offered to help. Without her, we would have lost this house. Elizabeth was furious. Why didn't you tell me? For over 10 years I knew nothing. I was too proud. Robert's shoulders slumped. I couldn't admit I failed. I didn't want to show weakness. And what did we do to a daughter like that? Elizabeth shook the documents. During her happiest time, we cut her off. Look at this invoice. See what Mary has done for us. Caitlin was in tears. My college tuition, medical bills, my sister paid for it all. She trembled, checking each item. I only ever thought about myself. I had no idea what Mary had done. She never said a word. Robert, that was our agreement, he mumbled. For the family's honor. Honor? Elizabeth's voice rose. For your pride, you mean. And now we've hurt our daughter. Instead of celebrating her pregnancy, we did this awful thing. Her words turned into sobs. What horrible parents we are. The three sat in silence, the invoice and letter on the coffee table revealing the truth of their lives. We need to contact Mary, Caitlin said first, standing up. We need to apologize, explain. She called her sister, but it went to voicemail. She's not answering. She slumped. Of course not, Robert said quietly. We betrayed her. Elizabeth stood, wiping her eyes. Let's go to her apartment. We have to apologize in person. They drove to Mary's apartment, but a new shock awaited. The manager said Mary and David had moved out 2 days ago. Do you have their new address? Elizabeth asked anxiously. I'm sorry, they asked me not to share it, the manager replied apologetically. Disappointed, they returned to the car. Let's try her company, Robert suggested. At the real estate office, a receptionist told them, I'm sorry, Mrs. Hamilton has transferred to another branch. I can't give you the specific location due to privacy policy. They called Mary multiple times and sent emails, but there was no response. A week passed, their anxiety growing daily. She's really left us, Elizabeth cried one night. What we did is irreparable. Robert was also deeply remorseful. My pride ruined everything. Mary was always there for us, but we didn't understand her. Caitlin looked at a picture of her sister. We may never have another chance to be a real family to her. A month later, an envelope arrived from Mary's lawyer. Inside was a short letter and a photograph. The letter read, Mary is currently in a safe and peaceful place. She wishes to refrain from contact for now. Please respect her choice. She and the baby are healthy, and she is due soon. The photo showed Mary very pregnant, standing by the sea, smiling. David stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. They looked happy. Seeing the photo, the three of them cried, a sense of loss and regret washing over them. they had to accept the truth and the consequences. She hasn't cut us off completely, Caitlin said, staring at the photo. Sending a picture means she hasn't completely closed the door, but it will be on her terms in her time. Robert understood. We have no choice but to wait. And when she comes back, we must be ready to welcome her as a true family. Elizabeth looked at her husband and daughter and nodded. We must use this time to change, so we never hurt someone we love again. They quietly held hands. They had a long road ahead, but for the first time, they faced the truth and began to want to change. Mary's invoice hadn't asked for money, but for truth and sincerity, and it was deeply etched in their hearts. Emma, Grandma, and Grandpa are here. Are you ready? Mary called to her 2-year-old daughter as she placed flowers on the living room table. Spring sunlight filled the room. Yes. Emma's cheerful voice echoed as she ran in, her golden curls bouncing. She wore a blue dress and had her mother's sparkling clear eyes. The doorbell rang. David answered it to Robert, Elizabeth, and Caitlin, who looked tense. Please come in, David welcomed them warmly. Mary took a deep breath and went to the entrance. Her reunion with her family had started gradually after Emma was born, first through lawyers, then short phone calls, and for the past year, monthly visits. Rebuilding trust wasn't easy, but the new relationship, built on truth and honesty, was stronger. Mary, Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for always letting us see you. Mom, Dad. Mary responded quietly, the old tension gone from her voice. Emma has been looking forward to seeing Grandma and Grandpa. Robert's face lit up at the sight of his granddaughter. He knelt to her level. Would you show me the picture you drew for Grandpa? Emma nodded happily, taking Robert's hand and leading him to the living room. Caitlin approached Mary and they hugged quietly. How are you, sis? I'm good. Busy with a new project at work but fulfilled, Mary smiled. And you? Thomas. We're fine. Thomas is at a friend's today, Caitlin replied. A year ago, she and her husband Jason had adopted a 5-year-old boy, Thomas. The family gathered in the living room, chatting peacefully over tea. The invoice incident 3 years ago had been a turning point. Robert had learned from his mistakes and now discussed finances openly. He even taught financial literacy at a senior center, lecturing on learning from mistakes caused by pride. Elizabeth treasured her time with Emma and worked on a healthier relationship with Mary, understanding the importance of loving without discrimination and respecting both daughters. Caitlin had worked hardest to repair her relationship with her sister. She now counseled at an adoption support organization, sharing her experience that family isn't just about blood. After dinner, once Emma was asleep, Mary joined her family on the deck to look at the stars. What is a true family? David asked quietly. Mary thought for a moment. I think a true family is people who support each other, even in tough times, have the courage to admit mistakes and grow, and above all, build relationships on honesty and respect. Everyone nodded silently. After a painful journey, they were finally beginning to understand what that meant.